This is The Road Show, and I'm your host, David Warren. Well, today is Therapy Day with our friend Kim Har, a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. Today's topic addresses being stuck in a rut, or as I like to put it, when your routine becomes a routine. Let's welcome back our friend, Kim Har.
It's good to be here, David.
I know that's a little corny, but
I was thinking that.
but I think it's kind of cute when your routine becomes a routine. So we'll
That's
tell you
right.
more about today's topic here in just a bit, but it is time to hear an update on the Har family, specifically how your recent trip went. Andrew and you took your parents
We did.
to Saskatchewan, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Saskatoon.
Well,
Is that the province?
we flew into Saskatoon Saskatchewan is the province.
Thank you.
Saskatoon is like the capital of
Okay,
it.
Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Right. We flew in from Tulsa to Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Then we rented a car and we drove 4 hours more north. And then we got to a little town and we hopped on a little float plane and we flew in on the float plane about another 30 minutes north as well. So we were way, way, way north.
And tell us who was waiting for you there.
My brother and his wife, they own a hunting and a fishing lodge in Saskatchewan. And so this was kind of like it was going to be just Andrew and I, my husband. And at the last minute, Mom and Dad decided they'd like to come too.
My goodness, that is so remote, Kim.
It's very remote. It is very remote, very relaxing though. But it was a long trip.
Does your cell phone work there?
Yes, it did.
Really?
Yes. I won't say which brand of cell phone user I used, but yes, it worked actually very well.
All right. Well, those who follow us on Facebook got to see a very impressive picture of you holding Catch of the Day.
That's right.
Tell us about the photo that people can see on our Facebook page.
Okay, so the photo that they can see is I am holding, I think it was like a 42-inch northern pike. So it was a huge northern pike. And if I'm totally honest, my husband actually caught it. And I got to help bring it in and hold it. I caught one, it wasn't quite as big, but I wanted the picture with the big one.
Well, you could obviously measure the length. 42 inches. Is there a scale on the boat?
No, it's not a scale. They just took like a measuring tape and measured it from the tail all the way up to the nose of it.
Wow. How long did it take to reel in?
It really doesn't take that long. They do fight, coming in, but it probably, I don't know, maybe took 3, 4, 5 minutes.
Wow.
It wasn't bad. It was exciting. It was my husband's very first time in Canada, like in that part. He had, flown across the border, driven right across the border, but this was his first time going into Canada like this.
Well, you were born there, raised there, the first part of your life.
I was.
Tell us, what was it like for your husband? It must have been an exciting experience for him.
It was. It was kind of funny because when we were on the boat, he was actually a little nervous because it was different than what he was used to. He was used to, the boat where you're like really up out of the water and maybe he's I don't know what you call it. He's the driver, the steerer. But here we went with a guide there and the boat, of course, it was just like 12-foot Lund boat. So you can put your hand in the water right over the side. And it was, I think it was like 50 miles of lake. And so he was a little concerned we would get lost. So I told him, I said, well, all you got to do is flip the boat over, go to shore. It's like build a little fire. Somebody will eventually find you. But he was a little nervous.
Well, it was obviously fishing season, but we discussed on our previous program when we talked about leaving loneliness behind that it is also a hunting lodge, as you've mentioned. And what do they hunt up there when it is hunting season?
They primarily hunt bear. And it was kind of funny because I told my husband I kind of got this ornery. I have an ornery side.
Really?
And so I told him the whole time we would walk by our cabin and I would say, oh, I bet bears come into camp. And then we'd go to our cabin. And then I said, I wonder if the bear could sleep under our cabin because look at how there's this hole there. Look at that scratch mark. And so on the last day we were there, I had asked my brother, I said, I'm going to leave our bedroom window open.
Oh, no.
And I said, would you please go underneath the bedroom window after we go to sleep? And would you just grunt a little and make kind of a scratching noise and grunt a little? And my whole thought was I wanted him to get the whole experience. And so unfortunately, my brother forgot. So I didn't get to save my husband's life because I was going to come to the rescue. I was going to be brave. I was going to shoo the bear away.
You might have saved your marriage by your brother's forgetfulness.
I may have. It may not have been quite as funny as it was in my head.
Well, how did your parents do? Did they enjoy themselves?
They did. My father is 86, and he used to be a pilot. And my mom actually was one of the first, I think she was the first woman pilot in all of Manitoba.
Really?
But my dad used to fly float planes. And so when we got there, I asked the pilot that was flying in, because there's obviously a seat beside him. And I asked him, I said, could my dad fly up there next to you? And so when they were flying, he actually gave my dad, and I don't think it's called a steering wheel, but the controls of the airplane. And so my dad got to actually hold the controls of the airplane while we were going in. And I might have been a little bit more nervous had I known that, because I was in the back of the plane.
Well, for those who don't remember or know this, your dad, Kim, is Peter Enns, also known as America's Poet. Mm-hmm. So he went from Canada's pilot to America's poet.
That's right.
Wow.
So they had a great time.
Good.
They had such a good time.
Good. Well, welcome back. We have an exciting topic today. Before you tell us what it is, if people go back, and I hope they do go back and hear our therapy session on leaving loneliness behind, when we talked about you getting ready to go on your trip as well, mm-hmm. The Hardy Har story of that particular episode was about your dog, Rachel.
Yes.
Discovering
4 sticks of butter.
4 sticks of butter.
Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned that you were going to board her.
Yes, we did.
So how did Rachel do while you guys were away?
She did fine, but I have to say, Rachel really, she owns us. She rules the roost at our house. And even this morning when I was on my way to the roadshow to do this interview, I had to put her in her crate because I think 2 days ago, she got up on our counter and I had just bought some brand new oatmeal bars that were like wrapped in that real thick wrapping. And I came home and I found the box on the floor and she ate the wrapper. She has got a stomach of steel. And so today it was, I thought I'm going to put her in the crate, and she let me know she didn't like being there. So I had to sneak in, give her a treat, sneak out. So she kind of owns us.
Are we going to consider this our Hardy Har Har story today?
This is our Hardy Har story.
Well, have you guys thought about putting up some guards on your kitchen? Because I don't know that you can really have her in your kitchen at this point.
You should see. We have to put things on top of the refrigerator, or we have to put things, we literally have to clean off the counters for her. Because she is, for anybody that hasn't heard any of our stories about Rachel, she is part Great Pyrenees and part pit bull. She's a rescue dog. And so she's mischievous. We walk in and she knows, she gives us hangs the head, and we don't even have to tell her anymore. She just hangs her head and does the walk of shame all the way back to her crate. And she just lays there and looks at us like, I know I'm in trouble.
Well, like mother, like dog.
That's right.
Kim Har, tell us about today's topic, which we're officially calling What to Do When You're Stuck in a Rut.
That's right. I think so many of us, just after a period of time, find ourselves feeling like we're stuck in a rut, monotony. There's this hamster wheel where we're doing the same old every day, and sometimes we lose our joy. And so today what we're going to talk about is, first of all, practical strategies of what we can do to shake up that routine. But also we're going to talk about things like confronting our own negative self-talk and how even helping other people helps us get out of ruts.
All right, that's coming up after this. I'm David Warren here with some exciting news for Oasis listeners. We have a new mobile device app. It's free, easy to download, and lets you enjoy our refreshing music and talk everywhere you go. If you have an Android cell phone, go to the Google Play Store. And if you have an iPhone or iPad, visit the Apple Store and search for Oasis Radio Network. Be an Oasis ambassador and share this news with family and friends around the world.
Oasis Roadshow.
On today's Roadshow, our topic is what to do when you're stuck in a rut. That is the therapy session for today with our resident therapist, Kim Har. And I have an advanced copy of the notes that I follow along during these therapy sessions. David Warren here. And Kim, you wrote, imagine waking up every day feeling like you're Bill Murray in the movie Groundhog Day. The same routine, the same challenges, no progress. That's what being in a rut feels like.
That's right.
So as a trained therapist, how would you clinically define being in a rut?
Well, I don't know that there's literally a clinical term for being stuck in a rut, but it is more than just having a bad day. It's more than just, well, I've just been kind of feeling stuck lately. It's really more of a persistent feeling of stagnation. It's going to be things like I've lost my joy. Everything feels very monotonous. Like I said before, it's almost like you're just kind of going on a hamster wheel, almost on autopilot. I don't have to put any thought into it, and I'm kind of bored with life.
But some people will say, but that's life.
Well, I think there's a part of life, but I think that we can coast on autopilot and just kind of have that humdrum. But I think if we want to improve our own mental health, if we want to improve what we're doing and find joy in what we're doing, not be doing the same old, because really none of our days have to be exactly the same.
Well, according to the notes that I read through and that you studied out well, and you researched this very, very well, 61% of people report feeling stuck in a rut. 60,
right.
That's almost 2/3
That's right.
of people report feeling stuck in a rut. So tell us how and how often
Sure.
this comes up in your sessions with your clients.
I think it comes up a lot in my sessions when I am working with clients with depression, because lots of depression, it's almost like depression can fuel the being stuck in a rut, and being stuck in a rut can fuel depression. Because when I am clinically depressed or I have a diagnosis of depression, it is more than 2 weeks of those feelings of lack of a sense of worth. It's a lack of hope for the future. It is a part of being stuck in a rut. And because I don't have the energy to do anything different, because depression a lot of times affects our physical, abilities. We either want to sleep all the time, we don't have the energy, our eating changes. Okay, so we get stuck in a rut. But when I'm stuck in a rut, I'm actually also fueling things like depression because I'm not doing anything different. And when I don't do anything different, I don't get anything different.
I think a lot of us, as we age, we look back and think, what happened to the young me?
That's right.
Who used to like to travel or used to like to dance or be with his or her friends on the weekends. And now my life looks nothing like that. So
Right.
61% of people listening to you, Kim, and to me, David Warren, are relating to what I'm saying.
That's right. Well, I think that it's human nature we are habits, we're creatures of habit. And so we get into habits, and sometimes we think, well, if it's not broken, why fix it? Mm-hmm. But we just get into, I keep using the words, the same old day, like Bill Murray with Groundhog Day. We eat at the same places, we drive the same routes, we wear the same clothes, we do our hair the same way, and it's just kind of like we coast on autopilot, and it doesn't take energy because it's so deeply entrenched in us. It doesn't take a lot of effort. And so I think that sometimes as we get older, we don't feel like we've got the energy or the effort. It sounds like it's too much work to change anything. So we just kind of continue in those same old routines, the same. It doesn't mean they have to be bad. It just means there's nothing new.
Well, being stuck in a rut can affect an individual in various ways, or various areas, I should say. For example, the job.
That's right.
Somebody that feels like, I don't do anything new. I do the same thing for 8 hours minus breaks,
Right.
5 days a week.
Right.
Or they might feel like my relationship is stagnant. My wife and I, my husband and I, do the same thing every Saturday, every Sunday, every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Right.
Also, we can get stuck in our health and our health habits.
You know, when you talk about, like, even with the relationships, let me back up a minute, because in our relationships, especially marriage relationships, I see that in my office with marriage counseling, is because we've become transactional in our living. We talk at each other, we check in with each other, but we stop doing things that are new. Or we think, well, we've been married such a long time, we already know everything about each other, so we quit asking those questions. At a job, it may be, I'm stuck in my job, I'm doing the same things, but I'm not looking for anything to challenge me in my job. And a lot of this is things that we can actually do something about.
All right, I want to mention that quitting a job, leaving a relationship, and stopping daily habits, many of which can be healthy ones,
Right.
isn't necessarily the answer.
We don't want to stop healthy habits, but sometimes what we can do is shake them up, rearrange how we're doing them. Let me give you an example. If we are, in our health-wise, if we are working out and we're going to a gym all the time, it may be shaking it up a little bit and bringing my workout outside. Maybe instead of being inside with machines, workout machines, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to take really long walks in the park, or I'm going to, raise my heart rate a certain different way. And so I think we don't have to quit routines, with our daily life. It can be something as simple as, well, obviously brushing our teeth is a great daily habit we don't want to stop.
Right.
But it may be we get stuck in even buying the same brands all the time. I mean, if you think about when's the last time when you went to the store and you actually changed the brand of toothpaste or changed the brand of shampoo. And so we just kind of go on that autopilot and we buy the same things, we do the same things, and it's stagnant.
And is this affecting our emotions in a negative way by not making small, easy-to-do changes?
I think how it can affect us, it doesn't mean it has to, we're cratering, but it leads to boredom. It leads to things like lack of fulfillment, lack of purpose. I just use that word stagnation. It's like, okay, it's kind of like I'm here, but I'm maybe not necessarily as happy as I could be. And so sometimes it's like we miss daily opportunities to just do some things, and we really get stuck in comfort. Because it's kind of like when you wear your same comfortable sweater. Well, this is my comfortable sweater, so I'm never going to change. And it may be, well, maybe I wear my comfortable sweater, but I sit somewhere different. So it's more, it can limit our growth.
All right. Well, if you feel stuck in a rut, listener, that's where a life coach, or in the case of Kim, a therapist, can be of great help to you, to all of us. So when we come back, Kim is going to give us some helpful information on what we can do to get unstuck from our ruts. Back after this.
I'm Karen Jensen Salisbury, one of the hosts you hear on the Oasis Network Roadshow. For 35 years, this 1 hour of the day has inspired and motivated you, our listeners, with thousands of stories of people whose lives demonstrate the truth that with God, all things are possible. It's an hour that you should make a part of your day, Monday through Friday, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central. The Roadshow, an Oasis Network presentation.
Today's Roadshow is all about getting unstuck from our ruts. and we are here. You are listening family. I'm David Warren, your host, and Kim Har is with us once again. She is a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. And remind our listeners how long you have been in this field, Kim.
Well, it's going on almost 18 years now. I always say 17 years, but it's hitting that 18-year mark.
18 years. Mm-hmm. So is this a topic that you address in, since the statistics say that 61% of those listening to this program feel stuck in a rut, is that about the same amount of people that come in to see you feel stuck?
I think that, yeah, people that come in to see me, whether it may present in different ways. It may present in their relationships. It may present in their jobs. It can present in a lot of different ways. But this is one of those things that this is about growth. And so much of counseling and mental wellness is about growth and looking for areas we can continue to grow.
All right, at this time, you're going to give us some practical steps that we can take to invigorate our lives and get unstuck, as I said.
Yeah. The very first step is, and it sounds very simple, but the very first step is that we've got to recognize that we are in a rut and then make a decision that we want to do something different. Because I can realize I'm in a rut, but I can say, but you know what, I'm comfortable being there.
What are some signs, some emotions that I may be feeling that would signal me that I am stuck in a rut?
Sure. I think the emotions are going to be what we've already talked about. Emotions are going to be things like I'm bored. I am maybe just a sense of listless, unhappy, like a feeling like there's got to be more. I feel like my potential's untapped. I feel like I'm just going through the motions. So I think a lot of it is feeling stagnated, bored, unmotivated, a low mood. Those would be maybe signs.
How about if I'm showing signs of I don't feel like doing things that I always enjoyed doing in the past?
It's another good sign, as well as procrastination. Sometimes when we procrastinate, that's one of a really big sign of being stuck in a rut. Is when I'm procrastinating, it's learning to listen to your body and your feelings. I like to say, don't be afraid of your feelings. Feelings are just motivators. They're indicators. So if I'm feeling, bored, okay, it's like, what does bored want to tell me? Bored is telling me I want something that's a change, or I want something new, or I just need to invigorate something. So it's really listening to your feelings.
I know that we can get stuck in a rut in different areas of our lives, and one is relationships. And I want to mention about the relationship of a partner or a marriage to the couple. And that is, I know that when you counsel, or I don't know what the verb would be as a therapist, when you instruct maybe, two people that are like, we want to get a divorce,
sure,
you make them take that off the table.
Well,
for 6 months.
When someone comes in to see me, I ask them, okay, first of all, if we are going to go into an agreement that we're going to do, counseling for a while, I will say, for as long as you're here to see me. So if you're here to see me, for 6 months, then for 6 months, I'm asking that we take the word divorce off the table. Because if you don't take divorce off the table, sometimes, getting unstuck out of a rut is making myself vulnerable. It may be talking about my dreams or fears or things I want to do. And so if every time we have a disagreement, the word divorce comes up, well, we shouldn't be together. Maybe you should find somebody different. I think that as long as the word divorce is on the table, you're not in a safe place where you can really do growing.
So do sometimes couples confuse incompatibility with just being in a rut and needing to recognize it?
Well, I think the incompatibility, when people say we're incompatible, really a lot of times what that says is I don't want to do any changing myself. I want the other person to change, but not me, because I think when we're looking at things that are incompatible, one of the things we work on in marriage counseling is things like, how do you accept your partner's influence? How do you actually problem solve and compromise? Because that's a part of, it's not just about one person in a relationship. So I think that incompatible a lot of times means I don't want to compromise. I don't want to do anything different. I just want my partner to change. And if they won't change, that means we're incompatible.
Well, the reason I took that rabbit trail is because I wonder if sometimes people want to get a divorce when really they need to address this issue of being stuck in a rut because they need to recognize it and change things up a bit within the relationship.
I think when people come in to see me and they're already talking about divorce, one of the things I love to ask them is if this relationship could be as you wanted it to be, if this was a healthy relationship, would you want to work on it? Would you? And the answer is generally yes. But what they will come back and say is, but we don't see how that could happen. We've lost the vision for that. We've lost the hope for that. Man, if it could be, what we wanted it to be, if it could be a healthy relationship, yes, we would want that. And so that's where I usually come in and say, well, that's my job, is I get to come in and I'm asking them to trust me to guide them. And a lot of times it's being vulnerable. It's creating, new healthy patterns. But it's going to be stretching. It's going to be growing.
So one of the things you do is infuse hope within whether it's a relationship being stuck in a rut, like I've just mentioned, or I'm stuck in a rut in my job.
That's right.
Because I feel like I'm going nowhere. I feel like I've maxed out. Or I could even be stuck in a rut in my spiritual life.
Yep.
I don't sense God like I used to.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's all it takes. I think of, when we're stuck in a rut, I think of, when you see like a car or a truck and it's in mud, after a big rain and it's spinning its wheels and it's not able to get out. And a lot of times it's like it takes others to kind of help push us to get out of this rut. It does take work. And when we put the work in, at a job, a lot of times it's simply asking yourselves different questions. And you mentioned like a life coach or a therapist, or sometimes even friends, having other people that can hold you accountable. And you're saying, hey, this is what I'm going to try to do. This is how I'm feeling right now. Would you ask me questions? Would you just kind of be there as a sounding board? And so it's at a job, it may not be, I'm going to go quit my job if I feel like I'm in a rut. It may be, I'm going to see, is there a project that I could suggest? Is there something that I could get out of my comfort zone? Because a lot of times people fear success and they fear failure. So I don't want to try because what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? But the fear of failure can be, what if it works? What all of a sudden, if more is required of me? It's the unknown that scares people.
So as we're getting unstuck from our ruts, the first step, as you mentioned, is to realize that we are stuck.
That's right.
And so listen to your emotions. They're telling you something for a reason.
Yep. Listen to your emotions. Listen to your body. The second thing is, really, it's a shift in perspective. And one of those is reframing being stuck doesn't mean it's a horrible thing. It can be, it's a great thing that I recognize I'm feeling stuck in a rut. Well, that's just information to me that says I'm wanting something more. I want something better. So it doesn't mean we have to be afraid of, oh my goodness, now I feel stuck in a rut. Now it's going to spiral down to life's not good. Nothing's going to change. This will be the rest of my life, and it doesn't have to be that way. It can very much be, I recognize I do want something more. And so now I investigate, okay, how do I go about doing that? The other thing is things like set realistic expectations when you're trying to get out of a rut is if you set a really high expectation and you don't meet it, all of a sudden that's going to affect your negative self-talk. You'll see yourself as a failure. You'll kind of throw your hands up and say, see, I knew this wouldn't work. So set realistic goals. Make them small but measurable. Don't bite off more than you can chew all at one time, and start one change at a time. The other thing is look at rewriting your limiting beliefs. And some of that, like I said, there are the fears of, well, but what if I put in all this work and I still don't feel any different? Well, that can take me in a negative spiral, or I can actually say, but you know what, then I'll know that I tried this and I just need to do something different. I've tried one thing and I'm proud of myself actually for trying and doing something different, and it may spur on a new idea. Take off perfectionism. the performance. A lot of times that's where we get stuck in comparison. We look at other people and where they are, and all of a sudden it makes us be down on ourselves and say, look at what they're achieving. Look at what they're doing. I should be there and I'm not. And I just use that as I kind of beat myself up for it. So rather than getting into comparison or perfectionism, it's, again, going back to those small steps, but celebrate that, you know what, I'm me. I bring something to the table that nobody else does. God put unique gifts inside me. And so that's a part of really trusting and being your best version of yourself.
Wonderful advice, Kim. I think we're going to take another break here, but one of the things that I like to call you, besides a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist, so make space on your business card for this, PDF Queen. Tell us about what's coming up, because we're getting ready to get down to the nitty-gritty. And what I mean by that is we're going to talk about ways to shake up our routines, very specific ways.
That's right.
In the areas of our daily life, such as our to-do list, marriage and relationships, our job, our spiritual life.
That's right. Well, I am very practical. When somebody comes to see me for therapy, I like them to leave with something in hand. I want the listeners to be able to go away with something that they can begin doing something different. So I actually had a PDF handout designed specifically for the Oasis Network listeners. It is 13 simple ways to shake up your routine. It's kind of a fun handout. They're not things that you're going to have to hire a life coach for. These are things that you can begin implementing today.
All right, we're going to dive into these 13 simple ways to shake up our routines when we come back. I'm David Warren, Program Director at Oasis Radio Network and one of the hosts of this podcast. All of our hosts enjoy hearing from you, our listening family, so drop us a note. Our email address is roadshow@oasisnetwork.org. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and you'll receive new episodes on your mobile devices. And now, back to the show. Kim Har is our guest today. Actually, she's our therapist today, and she is with There's Hope Counseling. And remember this website, there'shopehere.com, there'shopehere.com. Plus, we'll give you an email address here in just a few moments to receive this time around's PDF. And so we're calling this 13 Simple Ways to Shake Up Your Routine. And that's today's topic. And Kim, so much we can cover on this topic, but what comes to mind before we dive into some of these creative ways?
I think before we go to the 13 ways to shake up your routine, I want to emphasize the part about, when we talk about starting small, it's really important to set goals for yourself. And I like to say, aim at your own target. This goes into that comparison piece we were talking about. I was reading, we just got through the Olympics, nationally, and somehow I came across a story of a previous Olympic champion, and I didn't realize, but there must be like target practicing shooting with guns in the Olympics. I didn't see that, but I read the story of a person that was like, he was going to be the gold medalist. It was the last event he had to do. There was a target that was at the end of his lane, and he was aiming his gun because it talked about a trigger. So I'm assuming it's a gun. But it said he was aiming at his target, and he could hit almost anywhere on his target, and he was guaranteed a gold medal. And so he shot, pulled the trigger, and was actually disqualified from the Olympics. And the reason is his sight was not on his target. The sight was on the target next to his, in the lane next to his. So he ended up missing any medal that he could have gotten, and it was because he was aiming at the wrong target. And sometimes when we get into things like comparison or even a lack of goals, we have nothing to aim at. And so I just want to encourage listeners to set those small, measurable goals, but then aim for those and make them yours. Don't aim at anybody else's target. So I wanted to kind of throw that in.
So know what your target is before you incorporate all these
That's right.
changes to your routine.
Ask yourself where you feel like you need changes, because if you love the way a certain part of your life is going, well, for goodness sake, don't go change it. But look at kind of reassess where are maybe just specific areas. So I'm not biting off and doing a whole total makeover on myself. It may be, what's the first area? What's the area that pops up that this is the biggest area? And I'm just going to work on that area.
Whether it's daily life,
That's right.
such as your to-do list, or
Yeah.
what you find yourself doing on a regular basis, typically the same way at the
Yeah.
same time,
Yeah.
Your marriage or relationships with others, your job, or even your spiritual life.
That's right. You know, with your spiritual life, I like to, and I don't know if I put this on, I'll have to look at my handout, but spiritually, you were talking before, sometimes we can just kind of feel dry. And, you know, just a real simple thing you can do is try getting a different version of the Bible than what you normally read. It may be shaking it up, comparing versions. It may be where I'm having my devotions. You can just shake up something little, and it doesn't mean, well, I feel dry, so I'm just going to quit.
All right. So you have really gone the extra mile here, creating a beautiful PDF that you're going to send to anybody who emails you and
That's
says,
right.
please send me the 13 simple ways to shake up my routine.
That's right.
And so we're going to go through some of these ways. They're different headers, and then you break them down by suggestions of
Right.
different things you could do.
Yep.
Like, for example, take a different route. And I think it's interesting that you decided today, maybe it's because of this topic,
It is.
that you decided to take a different route to the station.
I did.
Now, I know that seems, well, minimal, maybe even silly.
Right.
But what would that do, or can it do for you emotionally, just by
Sure.
changing the route to an appointment,
Sure.
to home, to your job?
You know, the simplest thing it does is it makes you focus. Because sometimes we drive the same route, we walk in the same door, we greet the same people, we eat the same breakfast on our way to work. And so sometimes when we shake up, even just changing the route you drive, you're going to be seeing new scenery. It may be going away you've never gone before, but you actually are having to engage your mind because you have to really focus so that you're not taking a wrong turn.
I know that when I have discussed the topic with experts on cognitive health, and that is, you may do something that's highly intellectual every single day at work,
Right.
but you're used to that.
Right.
So it's when you get out of your pattern
Right.
and do something differently or something different
Yep.
that you start to open up new neural pathways
That's
in
right.
your brain.
It's like stretching a muscle or building a muscle you haven't used in a long time. So that's, on the taking the different route, it is something as simple as it may just be changing your destination. It may be exploring a new part of the city, or out, with a different route. And because we're talking about job, it may even be something as simple as just redecorate the way my office is, put my desk in a different area so I'm actually taking a different route to my chair. So it doesn't have to be big.
All right, the second simple way to shake up our routine, learn something new daily.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what that would be for me today. What about you?
I think for me, when it's, I like to do, even when I'm practicing gratitude, I like to look back and say, okay, who are people I helped, but what did I learn today? And it doesn't have to just be educational. It can be, I learned maybe that taking a different route was actually enjoyable. It may be, I love watching things like TED Talks on things that I have no knowledge of. It may be reading a different book than the one I would normally read. So I think it's maybe, and right now, my husband and I, we are getting ready to go to Cancun for a wedding. And my nephew does like some almost like professional ballroom dancing. Mm-hmm. And so I told my husband last night, I'm too embarrassed to go anywhere because I have no rhythm. But it was because we're not dancers. But it was like, okay, let's look on YouTube and let's see if we can not make fools of ourselves. So even in learning something that simple, we were laughing last night. We were actually shaking up a routine, and it was a lot of fun.
You know what? Something I do that came to mind as soon as I said, I don't know what I do or what I did maybe today. But what I do is I like to watch podcasts on YouTube and learn about things relating to health and learn if I'm doing something that's something I should not be doing or ways to improve what I am doing. So actually, I have been learning something new about every day because I study that a lot. So the third way to shake up our routine is to practice random acts of kindness. And this will bring you a lot of joy, folks.
You know, this is one of those things when I talked earlier about paying it forward, and when you help others, it actually sends dopamine to your brain, which is that feel-good chemical. And it does. It's like when you reach out, whether you offer to volunteer somewhere, whether you are writing a thank you note to somebody, whether, and I don't mean to just keep coming back to a job, but it may be if I work in a building that's more than one floor, I may actually go to a different floor and I may meet new people and one day surprise everybody and bring some donuts. I mean, so I think that there's a part of looking for ways to pay it forward, and it doesn't have to be big.
Number 4, embrace technology detox.
Yeah, I think that with social media, we can all kind of like put our minds in neutral and get lost in that endless scrolling. And it's before you know it, you've spent 1 hour or you've spent 2 hours, and we think it's good for our mental health, but we're actually just unplugging, and it can go in a negative way, and it can impact our relationships. So in getting out of a rut, in doing something new, it may be, you know what, when we go eat supper, we take an hour, and that's like a no social media or no television. We're not just going to sit in front of the television and watch TV. We're going to sit at a table.
And face each other.
We're going to face each other, make eye contact, and we're going to talk.
It's crazy we even have to mention that.
I know.
But that's where we are as a society.
That's right. Well, yeah. I mean, and there are good things to technology. We just want to make sure that there's a balance in how much is good and how much are we letting it actually take over our lives.
Okay, I'm going to skip some of these just because there are so many, 13 in all, and this show is only so long. Spice up your meals. Do you cook?
No.
Does your husband cook?
Yes.
Do you cater?
am married.
Or do you have it catered, I should say?
No, my husband is, Jesus knew I needed Andrew. He cooks. He is the most amazing cook. I tell him, you cook, I'll clean. Because when I cook, I am such a bland cooker. However,
I was going to say, now, are you going to take some of your own advice?
Absolutely. You know, when I come up with these things and when I really put thought into these, I look at, okay, I try to practice what I preach. Now, it's not always easy. I mean, I am just like every other listener. I happen to be a licensed therapist, but you know what? I'm also Kim, the woman. I am just like everybody else. So, yes, I am a little bit more of we did take a cooking class, which that was kind of fun. But yeah, my husband likes to tease me. I don't cook.
Well, you two sound like the funnest couple I've ever heard of. You take dancing lessons and cooking lessons and go to Cancun and...
Well, now we're not taking dancing lessons. We're doing that in our house. We turned on YouTube on our TV.
Well, I call that a lesson.
Yes, I think it was more of a comedy. It was kind of like date night and oh my goodness. So, but yes, it's trying new things. It's shaking things up. Otherwise, I don't know about you, but I don't want to become a boring person. I don't want to just do the same old thing every day and just, okay, this is how I do it until the day I die.
All right, I'm going to skip down to number 8, declutter and redesign your space. This is a simple way to shake up your routine.
You know, I hear more times when people go into like decluttering or moving things around and putting things that bring you joy around you, it has a direct link to your mental health. Because when things are cluttered, your mind is cluttered. You know, if you've got someone that struggles with something like hoarding, or if I think there's a saying that says if you want to know the emotional or mental well-being, how well somebody's doing, look at 3 things. Look at their garage, look at a woman's purse, And what was the third one?
I would say look at their car.
Yes,
inside
that's
their
the third
car.
one. Look at their car.
You know what? I will say this, that if I would have taken that advice, there is a particular employee that after I walked this person, no gender mentioned, to their car after hiring this person, it was too late. I saw the upheaval inside that car, just trash and junk. And I thought, uh-oh, what have I done? Needless to say, that employee is no longer with us.
Well, it's indicative. It's indicative of chaos. It's indicative of I'm trying to do too many things. I'm running from one thing to another. I can't catch my breath. And I'll say that, you know what, I have tried to implement really checking where I do it is in my purse. It's, it's not uncommon. I know it's time to slow down and clean this and take better care of myself when I find 5 pairs of reading glasses in my purse. Because it's like, well, you grab them, throw it in, grab it, throw it in. And it's a matter of, okay, stop, declutter, and even simplifying. And this is actually something I did to simplify. I actually recently bought a small purse. I am not a small purse person. I bought a small purse so everything couldn't go in it. And just how good that felt is something really simple, but man, it felt good.
Well, women can relate to that. I can't, but women can relate to that.
Well, there's man purses now.
Well, I
Briefcases and
I actually have a Merce,
fanny packs.
but it's kind of small. Okay, I'm going
I know what to get you for your birthday.
All right, 13 simple ways to shake up your routine. By the way, before we touch on a couple more of these, before saying goodbye, tell us how people can get a copy of this PDF.
All you need to do is email me at kim@there'shopehere.com. And in the subject line or somewhere, just put on there, hey, heard you on the roadshow, want the routine handout. And within about 24 to 48 hours, you should have that handout. If you don't, send me another one saying, hey, you need to simplify your life and get me that thing on routines.
As soon as I finish dancing salsa to
That's
the song,
right.
I will get you that
That's right.
PDF.
So it's kim@there'shopehere.com.
All right, this may be my favorite one, number 10, and that is to reconnect with people. And you know what? God has put some really wonderful people in my life. And I've got to say that I am at a season in my life where I think I have gotten into some bit of a rut or routine that has become a rut. And if I would just look at the contacts in my cell phone and reach out to a couple of these people,
Yep.
they just bring me life and energy and shake it up
Yep.
for me.
You know, I've done that just this last month. I have 2 times a week because I can get really busy in my office. I can go in my office in the morning and not leave until it is time to go home. But I have specifically made it where I've said, okay, once or twice a week, I want to go to lunch with somebody, whether it's an old contact, whether it's a new friend, whether I want to actually make that happen. And I tell you, I've been doing this for probably about a month now, and it has been so enjoyable in that not only do other people bring joy to me, but I know that I can bring joy to others as well.
On our previous therapy session about leaving loneliness behind, you mentioned something that you did that really messed with your routine.
It did. Are you talking when I went to Chick-fil-A?
Yeah, retell that story because
Yes.
I love that story.
You know, I was actually inspired by my 26-year-old son. He came to me and he said, Mom, one of the things I want to do is I've made a goal for myself to meet one new person a week. And he left, and I thought, you know, if he can do it, I can do it. And so it was in my mind, and there was a specific day I was going to a new store, and I got there early. It didn't open until a certain time, and so I was going to have about 45 minutes to wait. I looked across the street, and I saw Chick-fil-A, and I decided, you know, I'm just going to go grab an early lunch, and then I'll just come back. When I went there, of course, there was a line, and I got out of my car, and normally I would have just gone through the drive-thru. Here's another way. Shaking up my routine did something different. So I parked my car, I went inside, and I noticed the man behind me was probably in his mid to late 70s, but he just looked sad. And so we're standing in line, and I got up to the counter, and the lady asked me, she said, "Is there anything else?" after I put in my order. And I turned around and I looked at him and I said, "Could I buy you lunch?" And he had this real surprised look on his face, and he said, "Sure." And so I bought his lunch, and I originally thought, well, I'm just going to buy it, and then I'm going to go sit down and eat my meal and leave. But we had to stand and wait for them to call our number. And when I did, I said, "Would you like to actually sit down with me and enjoy lunch?" And he, again, looked very confused, and he said, "Sure." And over that period of time, I just asked him, I said, "Tell me about yourself. What's your story?" And just really stopped and focused and was present in that moment. And before we left, he said, "I was really downhearted this morning. I don't have a lot of friends or family in the area." He said, "But this changed my day today." And all of that came because, one, I think I was obedient to that shaking up routine. I think sometimes the Lord's the one that says, "Okay, it's time to do some shaking up here." But it didn't just change him, it changed me.
And you shook up his routine, too.
Absolutely.
In a good way. Well, I want to encourage everyone that's listening to request this free PDF, and it's not a sales thing that Kim does. I don't think you have anything to sell on your website at all.
No. You know what I do is I offer, if anybody wants it, they can always sign up because I've got like a monthly newsletter that goes out where I include different resources that I do, but I don't sell anything. There's nothing, I don't benefit from that. It's more, hey, how can I give to you? Because that's a part of my ministry is how do I give back?
So people can email you at Kim, K-I-M, at there'shopehere.com.
Right.
And request the routine PDF.
The routine PDF.
The routine PDF, Kim at there'shopehere.com. Obviously, your website is there'shopehere.com, and there's a nice video when you log on to that website. And should I go ahead and mention a phone number?
Sure.
All right, 918-277-0777. 918-277-0777. I can only imagine some of the calls you've received. But it's on. I'm allowed to give it out, so
That's
I
right.
give it out. Okay,
That's right. That's
all
my
right.
business
Well,
number.
We like to end our therapy sessions with good news that there's hope, there's help, and there's healing.
That's right.
And today has been another great example of that. Kim, what are your closing thoughts before we say goodbye?
I think my closing thoughts are very much is that this is something that it's not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about doing one thing different. And I would encourage just maybe look at yourself and say, what are areas where I want to grow, where I want to do something different, and just begin.
Excellent advice from an excellent therapist, our friend Kim Har. Again, that website address, there'shopehere.com, and the email address for the PDF,
Kim at there'shopehere.com.
All right. Well, for Kim Har, I'm David Warren, and it's been
Another great
Roadshow. You've been listening to The Roadshow. If you'd like to write to us, here's our address. The Roadshow, P.O. Box 1924, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 74101. Our email address is roadshow@oasisnetwork.org. The views of today's guest aren't necessarily those of this station, but we do appreciate and thank our guest for spending this time with us. The Roadshow, an Oasis Network presentation.